Now I want to discuss my Social Security column. Originally on the template, this was just labeled Social Security. Oops. Uh, it was in an earlier template, the actual template most of, if not all of you downloaded. I used to have Social Security as just one column, but I later decided to break it into three columns just to make the complicated if statements more manageable. So I have three Social Security columns, one with no restrictions, and the restrictions I'm talking about are they only apply to you if you're withdrawing Social Security and working at the same time and generating earned income. The IRS has a rule that says if you're working and with collecting Social Security concurrently, for every dollar that you generate in earned income, your Social Security payments are decreased. I don't know what I said. For every $2 you generate in earned income, your Social Security is decreased by $1. So that's the restriction I have to consider. And then um, you also have to pay taxes on your Social Security. It's not this simple, but I said you'll owe a 15% rate on 85% of the Social Security that you collect. And then also after 2034, there's this belief that um, Social Security will only be 79% funded. So I have to consider those issues as well, which I did in this third column. I could have broken this into two columns and dealt with the 2034 lack of funding issue separately from the tax issue, but at this point, that's a pretty simple formula, so I just did both of them in the same column. But let's first calculate Social Security without any restrictions at all. So I did a couple of things, and those are on my calculations tab. So I have this is not actually showing, but all of it. But this is the Social Security starting age, and this is driven by um, a value from my input. The well, I can't remember exactly what it was. Basically, on my dashboard, I have a drop-down box, and you can choose what age you want to begin Social Security. So this is in the data validation menu, and I uh, did a drop down box. I'll just show you exactly where that's located. So it's under data validation, um, and then allow, and it's a list. And so I had the list on my inputs tab right here. Here is my list, and that's what appears in my drop down box. And so when the user of the spreadsheet chooses a value for the age at which the client will start Social Security from that drop down box, it actually links to right here. And the value that it returns isn't age 62 or age 67, it just tells you which value position in the drop down box did the user choose? Did it choose the first value, the second value, or the third value in this case? Well, if they chose 62, that's the first value in my box, in my drop down list, and that's where this one came from. If if I chose 60 or 70, that's the third position. Don't worry about this. um, then in my linked box, it will show me a value of 3. Then I went over here to what I'm calling my Social Security age. It's a named range that references B4. I am essentially looking up in my inputs section the location of the position that was inputted through the drop down list. So basically, with this index function, I'm popping over to my inputs. I'm looking here, and actually, I'm really just looking here. Oh, wait, sorry. I am actually looking here. And notice even though it says the word age in front of those, I did that with a custom formatting, and in the actual cells themselves, it's just the number that represents their age. Well, anyway, it goes to this range and it chooses whatever position of the Social Security age that was determined by that drop down list selection. So that's here. And then here, I remember named this cell Social Security age, and here I, I basically look up the monthly Social Security amount that's driven by what age they are when they decide to start collecting Social Security. That is determined here. And if you read the instructions, it shows you the link for the Social Security quick calculator and tells you how to determine these numbers. These are numbers you're just going to type in here. But so basically, the formula I'm about to show you says, well, if they're age 62, when they start Social Security, choose this number. If they're 67, choose this number. So popping back to my calculations tab, so if their Social Security starting age is less than 67, then choose Social 62. Social 62, it is this number. So I've got my cursor in here and you can see my named range is Social 62. This is Social 67 and Social 70. So if their starting age is less than 67, put their Social Security that they would receive at age 62. If their starting age is less than 70, put what they would get if they were starting at 67, and otherwise put what they'd get if they were starting at 70. And that covers all the possibilities. And this is their monthly entitlement for Social Security, so I multiply this by 12 later to get their annual value. Okay. I'm actually going to pop to the, or try to, here it is. This is the one I've been working on where when I've been recording these videos and I added a few columns. So I'm going to go ahead and use this particular one so my column references are the same as what they were for the other videos that I made. So, but all the named ranges and inputs and all of that are the same. So, if A14 is blank, put blank. That's pretty standard now on my things. But if it's not blank, we need to go look at this stuff. And so if B14, which is their age, their current age, I'm not going to pop over there and show it. If their current age is less than their Social Security starting age, then put blank because that means they haven't started collecting Social Security yet. Otherwise, we need to look at this. And if B14, their current age, is greater than or equal to, which is obviously the only other possibility, I actually don't think I needed another if statement, but it didn't hurt. But if their current age is greater than or equal to their starting age, then put their Social Security start amount, which is over here in A3, times 12. So I'm just converting it to an annual amount. But then your Social Security is indexed every year by inflation. I should perhaps use the word increased by inflation every year. You get a cost of living adjustment, a COLA, they call it. So I just multiply by 1 plus inflation adjusting to make inflation a percentage. So this is my present value. Oops, all of this is my present value times my I, times 1 plus my I, and raised to the power of time. Now A14 has my year in it, so it takes my current year minus the hardwired starting year of 2017. So this very first year, I'm going to actually do formula audit. I don't know if, or evaluate formula. I don't know if y'all will be able to see it very well because I know it's so small. But so this is checking to see if A14 is blank, which it is not. So it skips that first do this if it's true, and it goes to the next if statement. So if B14, which is 32, is less than the Social Security age, which is false, so or actually it's true. So it skips the do if true statement. I said that so wrong. It actually does what it says after the true. So, you know, just ignore the last 30 seconds of what I did. I should actually do it down here where we actually have a Social Security amount. So I'm going to do it all over and hope that y'all can see it on the video. All right, so if their current year is blank, do nothing. That's false, so it skips to the next if statement. If their current age is less than their Social Security age, do nothing. Well, that's false, so it goes to the next if statement. If their current age is greater than or equal to their Social Security age, which is true, then take their Social Security start amount of 1930, multiply it by 12 to get their annual Social Security amount, and then multiply it by 1 plus inflation, which is 3%, which I need to divide by 100 to make it a percentage, and then raise that to the power of time. Well, this year in row 44 is 2047. My starting year is 2017, so that is 30 years. So it's going to take 23,160 times 1.03 to the 30th. And that gives me 56,215, which is what it pops into the cell. So that's Social Security with no restrictions. Unfortunately, this Social Security after restrictions, I can't really simplify this formula any more than I already have. So the deal with this one is, again, if cell K14 is blank, put nothing. Otherwise, we're going to work on this part. If E14, which is their salary, so I'll just go ahead and pop over there. So if E14, which is their salary, remember that restrictions only apply, these restrictions relate to if you're working and collecting Social Security at the same time. The IRS has a rule that I'm looking for the amounts. Here it is. The IRS has a rule that says if you're working and you earn more than this Social Security annual limit, then every $2 you earn above that limit reduces your Social Security by $1. And these limits, this is just for 2017. In 2018, the limit will be more. And the next year, it'll be even more because they index this limit by inflation. So, this restriction column needs to deal with that. So, if their salary is less than the limit, that's what I'm checking. So this amount just takes that annual limit, which I had named SS annual limit, and this time I'm actually using the future value function. I decided it part way through the quarter to start using that function because it's a handy function, and I just have it on this sticky note. So the function is To find the future value of a present value, enter future value, the rate, a comma, the number of years, comma, the payment, comma, and then the present value. And if you enter a positive present value, it's going to return a negative future value. I don't like it to work that way, so I usually enter negative present values so it returns a positive future value. And that's what I did here. So this part right here, I think I can actually make this stay on top. So this part right here is what I'm talking about. My rate is the inflation rate. I'm dividing it by 100 just to convert it to a percentage because that's what Excel needs. My number of periods is column or value B14, which is actually my age, current age, and I subtract my starting age, the age I am right now. Before in other formulas I had actually used the year column. It doesn't matter if I use the year column or the age column to figure out my number of periods, I'll get the same answer. So my current age minus my starting age tells me how many years into the future I am, which determines how many years to compound my present value. I don't have a payment in this particular situation. Payment deals with annuities. I don't have an annuity. I'm not pulling an annuity forward. I'm pulling a present value, a lump sum, a single sum forward. So I can skip the payment part. I can skip it by entering a 0 right here, or just leave it blank and it assumes it's a 0. And then my present value amount is that Social Security annual limit. Remember, the whole purpose of this section right here is to compound that Social Security annual limit at the annual rate of inflation for however many years into the future that I am. So if my current salary is less than that annual limit, there is no restriction. I can just enter my Social Security amount without restrictions in this column that I'm working on. But if it's not less than, then it has to be greater than or equal to, which means I have to deal with the restriction. And what I've told it is to, and I'm just going to pop some calculations here. I have told it to calculate the max of either 0 or my current salary minus, I got a new keyboard and I'm not quite used to it yet. My current salary minus the, I'll say inflated annual limit. Well, that's the Social Security annual limit. Let me check. I screwed up. K14 is my Social Security amount. So basically, if you're above the limit, take your current salary, subtract the limit, and then divide that by 2. This is by how much your Social Security payment will be reduced. Okay? Because again, for every dollar that you make that's above the limit, for every $2 that you make that's above the limit, your Social Security is reduced by $1. That's why I'm dividing this by 2. And then, so what I have typed right here now for number 2, that's the reduction. So then I have to take the Social Security amount and subtract that reduction. And so that's my K14 is the Social Security amount, and then this is the reduction amount. And I have told it to do the max of that because if I make a lot of money, so let's say my current salary is $200,000 and the inflated amount is 50,000. So this is 150,000 divided by 2, that's 75,000. And if I'm only collecting 30,000, 30,000 minus 75,000 is a negative number. And that's not the way it works. They don't make you pay Social Security back into the system if you're making more than the limit and you're trying to withdraw Social Security or collect it. So that's why I told it to do the max. If you're making so much that your salary exceeds the limit, um, and this becomes negative, it basically ignores it and just puts zero there. And it basically says, hey, you made so much money that even though you want to be collecting Social Security at this point, you cannot collect any. So that is what this formula does. And now I need to deal with my. Actually, let me make this uh, become an issue for somebody, and well, that might be easier said than done. Trust me, the formula works. All right, so now let's deal with the funding issues and the taxes. So basically, I said if the previous column L is blank, put nothing. But if the current year is greater than or equal to 2034, that's when Social Security thinks that it'll only be 75% funded, or 79% funded, actually. So I said, take whatever Social Security amount is in column L. Oh, I just noticed a mistake. This time I think it is a mistake. I would have to reread my instructions to verify this. Um, I'm going to just take a quick peek. All right, I did in an announcement say that assume for this project that 85% of Social Security benefits are taxed at a 15% rate. And I didn't tax 85% of them, I taxed 100% of them. So, oh, what I should do is, hmm, just adjust this for taxes being happening on only 85% of them. But at this point, with this project, if y'all do this, I'm fine. Um, so take whatever Social Security that was in the previous column, multiply by 1 minus the 15% tax rate. That's what this 15% is. So you're only netting 85% of the Social Security that you're supposed to receive after taxes. But you're also running into funding problems. You're only going to be likely to collect 79% of that because of the funding issues. And then, so if it's not greater than or equal to 2034, you won't have that 79% funding issue problem. So just put how much you'll net on Social Security after taxes. So take your previous year's or previous column's Social Security and multiply by 1 minus the tax rate. Or another way I could do this is take that L14 and multiply, take L14, capitalize it, and subtract the 15% taxes on the L14. But really, I should do the 15% taxes on 85% of the L14 because I had forgotten to include that in column L. And I also have to make that 85% adjustment here. But I'm okay if y'all don't make that 85% adjustment and just assume 100% of your Social Security is taxed. I'll take either answer.